From Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.
Tonight on News Hour, National Peace Committee meets in Minna to chart a way for peaceful conduct of 2023 elections. University lecturers defy order, waiting for union directives to return to classrooms. Flood kills 3 in Nasarawa State as survivors cry for help. Away from Nigeria, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres calls for a probe into catalogue of cruelty in Ukraine. Hello and welcome to the News Hour on Trust Television. I am Ayuba Ilya. Thank you for joining. The details now. Members of National Peace Committee meet in Minna to chart a way for peaceful conduct of the 2023 elections. The meeting called on political parties and their supporters to build their campaigns on issues rather than attacking personality of political opponents. Chairman of the committee, General Abdusalami Abubakar, addressed the media after the meeting, which lasted for over 2 hours in his uphill residence.
The meeting had in attendance Sultan of Sokoto Saad Abubakar, Bishop Hassan Kuka, the INEC chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, Aliko Dangote, among other members of the committee. General Abubakar said that first peace accord will be signed on September 29th in Abuja to commit all political parties, presidential candidates, and their spokesperson to peaceful political campaigns and rallies. He said the second peace accord, which would come up shortly before the elections, is intended to commit candidates to accepting the outcome of the votes as long as it is adjudged to be free, fair, and credible.
So the essence of this meeting is to arrange for the signing of peace accord for free and fair campaigns. This time around, we are preparing to have 2 signing of the accord. One is for the presidential candidates, sometimes in January, to sign an accord that they will accept the result of the election if they feel it is free and fair.
Abubakar, however, called on electorate to come out to participate in the electoral processes and desist from vote selling during elections. The committee then emphasized the need to promote a culture of healthy issue-based campaigns and political communication. The INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, called for support of the media towards achieving peaceful conduct of the 2023 elections.
We briefed the National Peace Committee on preparations for the 2023 general elections, which is only 156 days away from today. We also expressed our appreciation to the Peace Committee for devolving their intervention beyond the national elections to the off-season governorship elections, beginning with the Edo governorship election and all through until the last 2 governorship elections in Ekiti and Osun.
Yakubu wants political parties and candidates to conduct themselves in a manner that would bring about peaceful elections.
Nigeria's government said that economic blueprint recently unveiled by the PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar was a crude attempt at copying its policies. Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed said this at a press conference in Abuja, where he also criticized the opposition party of lacking new ideas that offer alternatives to Nigerians. Trust TV's Shafiu Suleiman reports.
Addressing the newsmen, Lai Mohammed accused the PDP presidential candidate of an attempt to duplicate the Buhari government policies in the areas of job creation, infrastructure financing, relationship with the private sector, rejuvenation of the power sector, poverty reduction, debt management, and the overall management of the economy.
That rebuilding infrastructure and reducing infrastructure deficit would enhance the carrying capacity of the economy and unleash growth and wealth creation. End of quote. No one understands this better than the Buhari administration. Even our worst critics will agree that our record on infrastructure development is next to none in the history of this country.
On proposed legislation by the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar to decentralize the power sector, Lai Mohammed said the PDP presidential candidate is exhibiting ignorance on the ongoing efforts of the Buhari administration in that regard. Also picked holes in the Atiku Abubakar's submissions on poverty reduction, mounting debt profile, security and budget deficit.
Said, and I quote, Nigeria under the APC-led government has consistently run on budget deficit since it came to power in 2015. And that these budget deficits are often above the 3% threshold permissible under the Fiscal Responsibility Law. End of quote. This is a misrepresentation of facts. The truth is that Nigeria has been running on budget deficit since 2009.
He challenged the PDP to come up with new policies instead of what he called reeling out what the present administration is doing. Atiku Abubakar had unveiled plans during the Presidential Economic Agenda Forum in Lagos to resuscitate small businesses with $10 billion economic stimulus package within the first 100 days if elected in 2023. Shapiro Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
And on ASU impasse, despite the National Industrial Court ruling restraining ASU from continuing the 7-month-old strike, lecturers are waiting for directives from the union for further action. Noel Samson visits one of the universities in Abuja to see level of compliance with the order.
The National Industrial Court of Nigeria has ruled that ASU should call off their ongoing strike and resume work. But a visit to this university that is always bustling with activities is eerily quiet, showing no sign of work resumption. Classrooms and most offices empty, enveloped in dust, and the once spacious environment that was covered with students and petty traders, mingling with different activities, is now covered with grass and termites. A lecturer in the university spoke on the court ruling.
My personal opinion is that ASU should actually appeal that judgment, so that by the time we get to the Supreme Court, we get the final verdict. Then at that time, because one thing we can assure you is that ASU is law-abiding. ASU has a process. Actually, when the judgment comes, the National Executive will have to go back to notify all branches. Branches must also have Congress meetings. So at the end of the Congress meeting, they will pass that information that, okay, this is the court decision, and then what's the next line of action? I'm sure it will be discussed exhaustively at all ASU branches nationwide. With or without the strike, actually, lecturers come in. Like I come in today not because I'm complying with any order that the university should be open. I have my other research things to do. I have other my academic activities to do. So I'm sure colleagues usually come with or without the order. But I don't really know because the order just came in, I think, yesterday. So today is just the first day after the announcement of the order. So I wouldn't know, possibly. Some may just come to say, okay, what's happening?
Moving from the academic, those petty traders who depend on the students to make a living said absence of academic activities has affected them negatively.
If ASU will respond to what the court say, because we staying back home, all this while has affected our business. And not only us, even the students that are supposed to have moved forward, they are still held back because of the strike. So if the ASU president will adhere to what the court ruling is and they come back to state to be very good.
Our reaction about this strike typically was, thank God, we see some moves from government, we see some move from societies and associations and so on.
Observers said, while ASU and the federal government seem to be at a deadlock and adamant, Nigerian students are at the receiving end. They said it is the future and the future of this great nation that is at stake. Therefore, a amicable solution must be reached. Noel Samson, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Meanwhile, the chairman of the Committee of Pro-Chancellors of State-Owned Universities of Nigeria, Yusuf Ali, says 70% of state-owned universities were not affected by the Academic Staff Union of University strike. Ali, who is the Pro-Chancellor of Osun State University, spoke during the convocation lecture delivered by the former Vice-Chancellor, University of Ibadan, Professor Abel Idou. He said that the no work, no pay policy helps in preventing staff of universities from embarking on strike. The guest speaker in his lecture lamented that the number of Nigerians pursuing education outside the country is very high due to the recurrent strikes in public universities in Nigeria.
When I assumed the position of the chairmanship of Committee of Pro-Chancellors of all the 57 state universities in Nigeria, I said it is the little work we are able to do here with your support that made them to recommend and recognize our little effort. I can tell you today as I'm speaking, 70% of state universities are working. 70% of state universities all over Nigeria. All the 3 universities in Lagos are working, state universities. Ogun working. Delta work, all the universities, 3 of them in Delta are working. Edo, they are working. Lautech is working, among others. Reason is because the members of staff have been able to reason with us that if you no do, you no go chop. So members of staff, I thank you once again from the bottom of my heart.
Moving on to security matters now, the Nigerian military says troops of Operation Hadinkai have neutralized at least 36 Boko Haram terrorists and rescued no fewer than 130 persons within the last 2 weeks. According to the military, the troops also within the period under review arrested 2 persons who are suspected to be major collaborators with the terrorists. The Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Musa Damadami, disclosed this on Thursday, beg your pardon, during the bi-weekly media briefing at the defense headquarters in Abuja. The Madami said that troops arrested the collaborators while attempting to withdraw the sum of 14 million naira deposited by a terrorist financier called Alhaji Abubakar. According to him, a total of 368 terrorists, including their families, surrendered to the troops within the same period, adding that 2 key Boko Haram terrorist commanders identified as Asia and Abu Ubaida were killed at Parisu and Sheruri General Area within the Sambisa forest. Suspected gunmen have killed 14 people in a fresh attack on the Mchia community in Logo local government area of Kaduna State. The special advisor to the governor on security matters, Colonel Paul Hamba, retired, confirmed this to journalists after a Security Council meeting in Makurdi, the state capital. He said that the attack occurred on Wednesday when the gunmen stormed the community around 9 p.m. Meanwhile, troops of Operation Wild Stroke have thwarted an attack on the Otese internally displaced persons camp in the Guma local government area of the state. Commander of the Operation Wild Stroke, Major General Kevin Aligbe, who disclosed this in an interview, said that the troops killed the gunmen in the counter-offensive operation, adding that a soldier who was involved in the operation slumped and died at the hospital. Residents of New Market of Jos North local government area of Plateau State have accused the police officers attached to the C Division of killing a 16-year-old boy, Usman Bala, and injuring 2 others in the area. Trust TV's Ado Musa gathered that the remaining victims who were shot in their legs are currently receiving treatment at Bingham Hospital in Jos.
According to the resident, the incident occurred on Wednesday evening after a police officer suddenly opened fire at some people who were plying around the area. Naziru Isa Nasali witnessed the incident. The police often come from C Division to station at New Market Junction, but in the last 5 days, youth in the area have complained about how they come to molest tricycle riders and impound their tricycles. So, when they come and seize a tricycle, the youth started shouting at them to stop, and before you know it, the police opened fire at people. They shot 1 in the stomach and 2 others in the leg. The father of the deceased, Muhammad Bala, while explaining how he received the news of the killing, described the incident as an unfortunate and called on the police authority to prosecute the officers. On Wednesday, after we observed the last prayer of the day, I was called that I should come to Bingham Hospital, and I asked why. They said I should just come. On getting there, I was told that my child was shot dead by the police. No security personnel has so far come to my house to talk about the incident. The police commissioner should wade into the matter and unravel the circumstances behind the killing. My son was innocent. He is a leather worker, and he went to a shop around the area to buy water gum to make some bags. The spokesperson of the State Police Command, Alabo Alfred, while confirming the incident, denied that the police went to the area to seize any tricycle, adding that, based on the recent killing of 2 market security guards in Jos, the police went to secure the area before they were attacked by some. The ward head of Abba Shehu, Nasiru Kawu, called on residents of the area to remain calm, as all necessary action will be taken to ensure justice for all parties. We are not happy with what has happened. It is indeed worrisome. I made the necessary contact to calm the situation. We are working to ensure that the matter does not escalate, and in doing so, we will not take law into our hands. The resident called on the State Police Commissioner, Bartholomew Onyeka, to take action against the officers who shot the victims, and also urged all stakeholders, including the state government, to investigate the circumstances surrounding the incident. Ado Musa, Trust TV News, Jos.
Still on security matters, Gombe State Police Command bust a 6-member kidnapping syndicate while in process of collecting ransom from the relatives of the victim. The feat was achieved after one of the suspects was arrested at Gombe Main Market. We have Ibrahim Ismail brings us details of this.
These are the 2 suspected kidnappers arrested, while 4 members of the kidnapping syndicate were at large. The 6 gang members allegedly abducted Malam Jibrilu, a resident of Wukari local government area of Taraba State. The suspects, who collected the sum of 4 million naira from the victim's brother 5 months ago, have threatened to re-abduct and kill the victim if the sum of 400,000 naira is not paid. They kidnapped and threatened to kill me if my brother did not pay 10 million naira. They later agreed at 4 million naira. My brother borrowed the money with the interest of 600,000 naira and gave them. They released me.
Sannan ya kawo masu sun kase. Oh, ya karɓo kaman bashi kenan. Madalla bashi kenan. To ya kai masu sun kase ko ni ranar Laraba.
After 5 months, they threatened to kill me if my brother failed to pay 1 million naira. We refused to pay the money, but we later agreed to pay 400,000 naira, but asked them to send their account details. We informed a POS operator. He vowed to help us apprehend the suspect. He tracked them in Gombe and collaborated with the police.
Anan Gombe, to sai ya hada da hukuma sun ka samu sun ka sake daya.
And arrested one of them. The other one, who ran to Kano, threatened me. He was arrested by the Gombe State Police Command. I commend them.
The
suspects, who confessed to their crime, said they have been involved in various criminal activities. A boy known as Dogo gave us intelligence that there are some Fulanis in Bantaje, Taraba State.
Bantaje jihar ina. Taraba.
They gave us 3 AK-47 rifles to kidnap the people, and we went and kidnapped the Fulani man.
AK-47 guda uku. To shine wannan suka dauke mu suka kai mu muka je muka kamo wannan ba Fulatani muka taho da shi.
The Nigeria Police Gombe State Command said it remained determined in the fight against criminalities across the state. The command said it will not relent in ensuring that the lives and property of its citizenry are protected.
Upon investigation, the said Saidu Salisu Saidu was apprehended at Kano State by detectives of the X-Squad State CID Gombe. Effort is in place to arrest the fleeing suspects, while the case under investigation, after which they will be brought to justice.
Kidnapping for ransom is more prevalent in northwest and north-central parts of Nigeria. However, the menace is now engulfing the northeastern state amidst other social vices. From Gombe, Ibrahim Ismail reporting for Trust TV.
Oyo State Police Command has paraded a 20-year-old suspect for allegedly raping and killing of a 17-year-old girl in a church in Ibadan. The suspect was paraded alongside 20 others at the Oyo State Police Headquarters in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. Police in Oyo revealed that the lifeless body of the victim was found beside a Bible church in Olodo area of Ibadan, violated. It was learned that the suspect was alleged to have invited the deceased into a church where she was killed. 20 other suspects paraded by the police were alleged armed robbers, vandals, and those involved in other forms of notorious crimes.
On Friday, 17th September 2022, at about 20:30 hours, which is about 8:30 p.m. local time, the command was intimated about the sudden disappearance of a 17-year-old female named Ifeoluwa. In addition to the above, the command, through painstaking and diligent investigations, were able to apprehend one Kolade Tosin male, a 20-year-old that has voluntarily confessed to the crime. Investigations are still on to ascertain the motive behind the sinister action. Upon completion of the investigation, a will be charged to court.
When she came in, I told her she should not shout. I removed the knife from my pocket. When I keep the knife, I remove it. I want to attack her with knife to collect her phone, but she did not want to give me the phone. She dragged the knife with me, and the knife fell down. When the knife fell down, he was trying to run out. When she was trying to run out, I hit her leg. She fell down. She used her head to bang the floor. She gets weak. When she gets weak, I rape her.
Now, Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC in Katsina, trained 600 vigilantes to help in tackling insecurity in the state. The training, which was sponsored by Katsina State Government, is expected to complement other security organizations in the fight against banditry ravaging the state. Abdullahi Amadi reports that 600 vigilante strong corps brings the number to 1,100 so far trained by the government.
With these vigilantes trained, the government believes that the menace of terrorists will soon come to an end. Katsina government is pained by the terrorists' failure to embrace peace, despite all offers and efforts presented to that effect by the state actors.
Just last week, I signed a request to the State House of Assembly asking about 1.5 billion naira for security purposes. Just last week, the Assembly was gracious enough to approve, and inshallah by this week we are going to start implementation.
Out of the 600 battle-ready vigilante personnel, about 250 are women. But the question on lips of many is what the vigilante corps will do differently to bring about the much-needed peace to the people of Katsina State.
We will no longer sit down and be docile to allow people to be killed like animals. Even animals cannot be killed the way bandits are killing our people. The state government has done everything possible by offering dialogue, giving amnesty, a lot of incentives that people should come and embrace peace. But it has shown that the only language these people understood is that of confrontation.
Many stakeholders boasted that the commissioned vigilante corps are ready to confront the bandits to their enclaves and defeat them. Let me quickly say we are ready to die for our dear state to enjoy peace. As such, I'm asking all the perpetrators of insecurity to come back to their senses and embrace peace. In the next couple of days, all things being equal, insecurity will be history. give us weapons, at least for protection, and leave us with the rest. The government is also promising to train about 2,000 vigilante corps put together before the expiration of its tenure in 2023. The objective is to complement the effort of other security operatives in combating the escalating insecurity bedevil in Katsina State. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
You're watching the news hour on Trust Television. Coming up shortly, we'll take a look at how clock repairing is fading out in Nigeria. Details of this and more after the break.
As the 2023 elections draw near, remember, evil prospers when good men and women only wish for peace, but never take a step to make peaceful elections happen. Are you a father? Are you a mother? What are you saying to your children as elections approach? Have you warned them not to let themselves be used to cause violence? Have you explained to them what the consequences of electoral violence might be? Do your part to make peaceful elections happen. Talk to your children. Protect them from unscrupulous politicians who want to put them in harm's way, while their own children are comfortable at home, within and outside the country. Let's join hands to make 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NOAA.
Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Welcome back. This is the News Hour on Trust Television. A reminder of our top stories again. National Peace Committee meets in Minna to chart a way for peaceful conduct of 2023 elections. University lecturers defy order, waiting for union directives to return to classrooms. Elsewhere, Inspector General of Police Usman Alkali Baba has charged top commanders of the force to be at alert as political campaigns begin this month for the 2023 elections. The IGP gave the directive during a strategic meeting that held at the force headquarters on Thursday with Deputy Inspector General of Police, Assistant Inspectors General of Police, Commissioners of Police from 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. The IGP also told the top commanders of top officers to maintain an oath of neutrality in accordance with the Electoral Act and always be at alert during political gatherings. Alkali Baba bans all quasi-security outfits in the various states and local communities from campaigns and other politically related activities. The police boss warned political parties to avoid actions or speeches that could inflame the political order, saying that they should also cooperate with the police to guarantee a peaceful electioneering period. People's Democratic Party (PDP) in Zamfara State will conduct a rerun for governorship primary elections on Friday. The state chairman of the party, Ahmad Sani Kaura has said. Last Friday, a federal high court in the state nullified the party's governorship primary won by Dauda Lawal Dare, citing the flagrant violation of party's constitutional provisions and guidelines as reasons. A former federal lawmaker, Ibrahim Shehu Gusau, had asked the court to nullify the election, which he said was highly characterized by gross irregularities. The state chairman of the party, Ahmed Kaura, said that preparations were on top gear for peaceful conduct of primary elections in the state, adding that they would lay emphasis on provision of level playing ground for all contestants. The Independent National Electoral Commission said a former governor of Kano State, Senator Ibrahim Shekarau, remains the senatorial candidate of the New Nigeria People's Party (NNPP). INEC's National Commissioner in charge of Information and Voter Education, Festus Okoye, said that the former governor remains the candidate of the NNPP for Kano Central Senatorial District, noting that July 15 was stipulated as the last day for withdrawal and replacement of National Assembly candidates, and Shekarau withdrew his candidature on 26th of August 2022. Shekarau, who defected to the People's Democratic Party from NNPP on August 29, was on Tuesday listed as the candidate of the NNPP for Kano Central by INEC. Reacting, the publicity secretary of the NNPP in Kano, Abdullahi Ibrahim Rogo, said that the party was not surprised that Shekarau's name appeared on its slot, adding that, however, that it has started the process of correcting the anomaly. Nasarawa State Emergency Management Agency says 3 persons have lost their lives to flood in the state. Director General of the agency, Zakaria Alumaga, confirmed this in an exclusive interview with Trust TV in Lafia. Abubakar Abdullahi sent in this report as presented from our studio.
Floods are a common phenomena during rainy season, but even more frequent this year, ravaging several parts of Nasarawa State, especially the riverine areas. Speaking on the disaster, Director General Nasarawa State Emergency Management Agency Zakaria Alumaga confirmed the death of 3 persons in the flood.
But the flash point areas, like in Karu, we have lost somebody already some people who attempted to cross the usual bridges that they are used to. But because, they underrated the level of water, so they thought they could cross. Those type of people, we've lost them around Karu already. 3. Karu, yes, 3. Somebody and his driver, and then 1 Okada man. All these ones have been lost.
The Director General said 5 local government areas of the state are prone to flood because they are sharing boundaries with River Benue. But government is not relenting in ensuring that inhabitants of the affected areas do not suffer.
In other words, all the village areas along the riverine area, along this River Benue, have already been submerged. We are in the process of evacuation. We are in the process of trying to look for how to provide succor for those who are affected. That is the position that we are in now. And that is what we have been doing. As a matter of fact, even relief materials have already gotten to some of them.
He also attributed the damages to the delay by the Cameroonian Authority to notify its Nigerian counterpart about the rising level of water in the Labdo Dam.
The water level had risen at the Lado Dam. Incidentally, we were not told earlier that it is going to happen today or tomorrow. It is when NENMET in Nigeria here began to get information that, look, it appears water level is rising, that, they now contacted Cameroon, and Cameroon said yes, they released water small in the dam. They didn't want it to. So if you are releasing water small, you should tell us. And they didn't tell us that, but they released water small.
In recent weeks, over 20 communities of Awe, Doma, Lapia, Nasarawa, and total local government areas were affected despite measures taken by government to address the situation. Leaders of the affected communities are calling for more assistance.
The Borno State government says it will establish an additional repentant Boko Haram camp to ease the peace and reintegration process of surrendered terrorists. The revelation was made during the commemoration of the 2022 World Peace Day in Maiduguri, organized by the Peace Ambassador Center for Humanitarian Aid and Empowerment. Bitrus Kurutsi has more.
Over the years, the conflict of insurgency in the northeast has been a threat to peace and reconciliation. It also resulted to the displacement of millions and loss of lives and property. This eroded social cohesion and triggered human rights violations, heightened poverty, unemployment, and socio-economic imbalances. The theme of this year's World Peace Day is End Racism and Build Peace. The gathering focused on advocacy for peace in communities targeted for return and reintegration of repentant Boko Haram terrorists.
This I want to end by calling on the Borno State government to ensure that the civil society are strongly involved in these processes. For now, as a center, we are involved in the process of sensitizing the repentant, and we are appealing to the government that more stakeholders are then in the framework of integration and other aspects.
We have over 52,000. That is a great burden on the state government. That is why a committee was set now under the chairmanship of Professor Kakasho for the state government to create the second camp. Very soon, we are creating the second camp around Gongolo Road.
There is no family that has not been affected by this insurgency. So as a result, peace is an issue for all of us to address and face.
The kinetic is always only 25%. The non-kinetic, which involves all of us, is 75% as of now. So please, I want to encourage us, especially the citizens, give us information. You know, those that doesn't want peace, they will trade peace for monetary gains. They will trade peace for their selfish interest.
The panel discussion focused on the impact of discrimination of young people in the context of insurgency and addressing it through peace-building approaches. Stakeholders are unanimous in the belief that the message of peace building will be a collective responsibility of all Nigerians.
Now, in commemoration of this year's World International Peace Day, stakeholders have called for more synergy, tolerance, equality, and harmony among Nigerians, irrespective of religious differences, in order to maintain peaceful coexistence among humanity. They made the appeal during an interactive session organized by Oyo State Government in Ibadan, tagged Peace Building Against Terrorism, Banditry and Electoral Violence with Religion Mask in Nigeria. Speakers at the event urged people to appreciate and respect each other's beliefs. They said that people should learn to accept one another, noting that without acceptance and tolerance, there will be no progress, prosperity, and development.
The purpose of this meeting is to embrace the peace among ourselves. All over the world is celebrating peace today, and without peace, there's no community. It is the peace that makes a community a reality. And if we have peace among ourselves, we can live with harmony. So it is important that everybody must embrace peace. And religion is sensitive. You can't do without religion. And religion is all about belief. We must center our message on the religion, because they are the only one that preach every day to their congregations.
This meeting today is in commemoration of International Peace Day, and our message to all our people, particularly in the area of religion, is to know that what binds us together is humanity. God created us in his image and after his likeness. We all have the same blood flowing in us. Regardless of our beliefs, we are all offsprings of God. And we must begin to appreciate the belief of one another.
Some people hide under the disguise of religion, and they are perpetrating a lot of crime, which is uncalled for. You can't call yourself a Christian, Muslim, or traditionalist and start doing charm or praying for somebody you know is a thief. And if you hear what His Excellency normally tell people, when you see something, say something. Cultists on the street, in the schools, they have parents. They live in people's houses. Who is your tenant? You should know your tenant. You should know people around you.
Retirees in Niger State on Wednesday stormed the government house in Minna to protest the alleged non-payment of their gratuity for the past 8 years. The chairman, Niger State Retirees Pressure Group, Stephen Daniel Zitta, told Trust TV that many pensioners have died without their retirement benefits in the state. The report.
The angry retirees on Wednesday stormed the government house for the third time in 1 month to express their grievances over the non-payment of their retirement benefits since the current administration came on board in 2015. They said during each of their protests at the state seat of power, the governor was said to have travelled. The chairman of the group, Stephen Daniel Zitta, said many retirees have developed partial stroke due to the trauma they have gone through pursuing the payment of their benefits in the last 8 years.
Today marks the third day of this protest. The first protest took place on the 5th and on the 6th. On the 6th, the director DSS intervened and asked us to be patient in view of the fact that the governor is not in town. He said he is going to talk to him and we should allow him a space of days from that Tuesday to Thursday to Friday, spread to the weekend, so that when he comes back, they will discuss and they will get back to us. As I'm telling you, we have not had anything apart from the interface that we have the organized labor. The crux of the whole issue is that retirees in Niger State for many years have not paid their entitlements.
The protesters said some of them had to beg to feed their families, while some of them had to have their children drop out of school because they could no longer pay their school fees.
You can see from the background, you find out that a lot of retirees have been dying without receiving their gratuity. A lot of retirees have retired, some of them have not even received their pension, and a lot of things have been happening to the retirees that this government has not been so careful in order to be able to cater for the lives and the dues of the retirees. There are times that the federal government gave Paris Club money for these retirees to get their own gratuity and pension. This government did not do anything about it. It even came to a point that after the Paris Club, there were other loans that were given for retirees' gratuity to be settled. But this government felt adamant to pay.
That's 7 years I don't get kobo. I just suffer. But my children cannot go to school again. No school, no anything. I don't get anything. Now I'm a very poor, as a poor man now. Because I want to beg you, because of Allah, make you help us to pay our gratuity.
The protesters accused the Niger State chapter of the Nigeria Union of Pensioners of not protecting the interests of its members. Addressing the protesters, the Deputy Governor Ahmed Mohammed Ketso said the government would look into their complaints and fix Thursday to interface with the protesters.
Horology, or the craft of repairing of watches and clocks, was once a lucrative business with so much innovation and creativity from both the manufacturers and repairers. However, with the invention of mobile phones, the use of wristwatches and clocks has greatly diminished, as many no longer rely on timepieces to keep time and check calendars. Abdullahi Amadi spoke to some watch repairers in Katsina who share their experiences and what they think can be done to rejuvenate the business.
The fact that watches are no longer an end thing is demonstrated these days by the decrease in the number of people, especially youth, who no longer put on wristwatches. The people say the mobile phones serve the purpose of wristwatches, which is why there is no need to waste resources on timepieces. To be frank with you, this business is at the point of extinction, but I am determined that this craft will go on whether anybody likes it or not. There are, however, those who still have a passion for watches who continue to put on timepieces to satisfy their preferences. I sincerely believe that this business will continue to thrive, no matter the challenges bedeviling the business. Many people will continue to patronize wristwatches, and by so doing, will keep the skill relevant. Besides the diminishing watch business, the watch repairers are also complaining lack of spare parts. Some horologists who have spent over 50 years on the job say the business has never been so bad, as the main concern is not even how to improve skills, but how to cope with the increasing cost of watches' spare parts. To me, watches repairing is my lifetime business because I inherited this business from my father since when I was 7 years old. I am appealing to governments to consider watches repairers in their empowerment programs. This business that was hitherto lucrative is at the verge of collapsing if the interest in clocks and watches continue to decline. But then observers say whether the cock crows or not, eventually the sun will rise. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
We'll now take a short breather. The news hour continues shortly. Please stay with us.
That's great. It's good to see you.
Welcome back. You're watching the News Hour on Trust Television. Let's now join Daily Trust Deputy Business Editor Sunday Michael, who is attending the Nigeria International Partnership Forum in New York on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly. Thank you so much, Sunday, for joining us on the News Hour.
Thank you, Ayuba. It's a pleasure to have me.
So give us a sense of what's happening there, in brief. Exactly what's this meeting all about?
Nigerian government took advantage of the ongoing United Nations General Assembly to organize what is known as the Nigeria International Economic Partnership Forum. The second time in the series, the first time was in France. And what it did today was to give opportunities to government functionaries and private sector players to showcase what is possible in terms of investment in Nigeria. And a number of sectors, they took presentations from a number of sectors, from oil and gas to education to energy and agriculture. We had the president today deliver his keynote address through the Chief of Staff, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, where he spoke glowingly about the opportunities that are available in Nigeria and efforts that have been made by the Nigerian government to make Nigeria a conducive environment for foreign investments.
All right, so what's the response like from some of these foreign investors there?
The pact has in the diaspora who had come in to hear firsthand from top government functionaries and head of parastatals, agencies and departments of government on what efforts are going on and what are the opportunities for for investment. So with regards to how people had responded, the hall was packed to capacity, and with a number of persons even spilling over, not being able to make it to the venue. The conversations were high-level conversations. You would think that it should have even spilled into a second day, because at some point there weren't enough time for most of the participants to make their point. But the high level of the conversations were presentations by the president of the African Development Bank, who is former Minister of Agriculture in Nigeria, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, and Professor Orama, who is currently also the president of the Afri-Exim Banks, who made very strong remarks about what needs to happen in the continent of Africa. And Professor Adesina, for instance, deliberately called for the world to consider a possible debt relief for Nigeria and for African countries, considering that a lot of these African countries are grappling, with the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic, and now the imported inflation as the result of the Russian-Ukrainian crisis. So he called for a debt relief for Africa and by extension for Nigeria. And Professor Rama spoke strongly about efforts around climate change and how Africa, seems to be suffering more from the devastation occasioned by climate change, even though he had not done enough to contribute. He spoke about the need, to provide financing for investment into oil and gas, which is now drying up because the world is now talking about green energy, even though we need these energies to develop our own resources in Africa. So there were strong voices around what needs to happen in Nigeria, what needs to happen around Africa. Most of the panelists also emphasized the need for the country to do something urgently around insecurity, as that is the foundation, for any kind of foreign direct investment. And there were also talk around the investment in the power sector as a major enabler, for business growth and the attraction of foreign direct investment.
Thank you so much, Sunday Michael, Deputy Business Editor, who joins us there from New York to give us this update. Thank you for joining us on the News Hour.
It's a pleasure to have brought me in. Thank you.
All right, for now let's take more business updates put together by Chamung Dabeng.
Nigeria's petroleum import bill increased by 71% in the first half of this year when compared to the same period last year, due to persistent product smuggling to neighboring nations. Data from the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, shows that premium motor spirits, also known as petrol, gobbled up 2.4 trillion naira in the first half of 2021, a 72% increase from 1.4 trillion naira in the corresponding period last year. A further breakdown of the NBS data shows that in the first quarter of 2022, Nigeria spent a total of 1.506 trillion naira on the importation of petrol. The amount reflects the highest spent on fuel imports throughout the previous 4 quarters, from quarter 2 2021 to quarter 1 2022. Petrol imports made up 24.31% of Nigeria's total imports in the fourth quarter of 2021, up from 12.91% in the third quarter and 11.26% in the fourth quarter. A federal high court in Abuja has overturned a consent judgment in favor of Panic Alert Security Systems Limited against the Nigeria Governors Forum, NGF, one of the beneficiaries of the $418 million payment to consultants, a contentious issue between the 3 tiers of government and Panic Alert Security Systems Limited. Other claims include those from Ned Nwoko with $68.658 million, Ted Edwards with $159 million, Riok Nigeria Limited $142.028 million, and Prince Orizu with $1.21 million, and Barrett Bello with $215.195 million. According to reports, the payment was made as part of the Paris Club Fund to state governments for professional services. The safety and security situation in the country's aviation industry and by extension Nigeria has compelled the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria FAN to withdraw flight extension rights granted to airlines that fly to Sunset and Sunrise airports. Sunset airports refer to aerodromes without landing facilities, which means that airlines can only operate between 7 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. FAN said henceforth any airline that applies for an extension of operating hours to aerodromes that operate earlier than 7 a.m. and later than 6 p.m. would no longer be granted. The managing director, FAN, Rabiu Yadudu, disclosed this during the second day of the ongoing 2022 Airline and Airport Business Summit and Expo held in Lagos. Yadudu said management had already met with the Nigerian Airspace Management Agency on the issue and a decision had been taken. He appealed to all stakeholders, especially airline operators, to comply with the directive, insisting that the two agencies would not change the policy. That's all for Business News. I am Chamun Dabeng.
Away from Nigeria now, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called for a probe into what he described as a catalogue of cruelty in Ukraine. This comes as Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered a reinforcement of troops in Ukraine. Guterres spoke at a UN Security Council meeting and the 77th UN General Assembly in New York. Also at the meeting, U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken demanded President Vladimir Putin be held to account as the UN catalogued Russian abuses in Ukraine. Blinken said Putin's announcement of plans to mobilize military reservists earlier this week as world leaders gathered at the United Nations General Assembly was an indication of Moscow's utter contempt for the Council. Now let's take a look at sports updates put together by Adeni Ajishafe.
The Nigerian Scrabble Federation NSF has invited 28 players for camp in Abuja ahead of the national qualifiers for the 14th African Championship scheduled for Lusaka, Zambia, from 24th to 24th of October 2022. Players are expected to arrive Abuja on the 27th of September, while the qualifier will begin on 28. Top 24 ranked Scrabble players and some wild cards will fight for 10 tickets to participate at the Pan-African Championship in Lusaka. Nigeria has won the 12th edition of the championship, losing only once in 2022 as runners-up. Meanwhile, Nigerian Scrabble Federation will also use the opportunity to hold its board meeting as well as organize the Abuja National Open Championship on 1st and 2nd of October 2022 at Moshood Abiola Stadium. And in football, as the September 30 date for the Nigerian Football Federation NFF board elections draws nearer, former president of the federation, Abdullahi Sani Lulu, has appealed to delegates to resist the temptation of voting along religion and regional lines and elect the right person that has the experience and capacity to turn around the dwindling fortunes of football in the country.
And with that, we wrap up the news hour on Trust Television. You can watch more via all our social media platforms and also watch us live on YouTube. I am Ayuba Ilya. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.